back to the channel, guys. It's Wes, Dave. We are from Midgard Axe, and today we're going to finish up the Council Tool Boys Axe. If you haven't seen the background, guys, got a new background going on. Haven't finished it yet, but I'm kind of doing a relaxed video here. This axe right here brought up some really good topics for me to cover in this video. It brought out some things that I'd like to discuss. It brought out some things I'd like to give you guys as far as information goes. This is going to be a pretty good video. If you can make it to the end, great. I'm going to give you guys a lot of information on this axe, different axes going forward, things that you should look for when you're buying an axe, and everything axe throwing related. So I want to pose a question to you guys, and that question is, what makes a throwing axe? Tell me in the comment section what you think makes a good or makes a throwing axe, and just in general, okay? The reason why I say that is because this axe here brought up something that I haven't really covered and discussed yet, okay? Now, getting into this axe, if you guys haven't seen the first video, go back and watch my first impressions. I do a little bit of a brief history on Council Tool. And for those of you who have already watched it are going to know what I'm saying when I say this. Council Tool Hudson Bay Pattern Camp Axe. I did a review on that one, which is almost the same head as this. This is a little bit bigger and heavier because it's on a felling axe handle, but it's designed almost the same way. That camp axe that I reviewed, remember guys, I told you in that video that that axe did really well at single rotations, but going back, it didn't do very well. The weight on the back of the pole was too heavy to be thrown for distance. It really was, but for single rotations, it did really well. And in fact, guys, I'll give you a little bit of information. That Hudson Bay Pattern Camp Axe that Council Tool makes is almost similar to the Wattle Ace of Spades. They are a little different, of course, that the Camp Axe has, fatter cheeks and a different profiled bit. But I tell you what, if you got that Council Tool Hudson Bay Pattern Camp Axe and you thinned down the cheeks and reprofiled that bit, you'd have almost the same axe as the Ace of Spades. They both flew very similarly, and I had the exact same experience with both axes. So take that for what you want to take it as, but I was able to throw both of them almost exactly the same, and they felt exactly the same to me. Now, if you go back to the very first video that I made on this axe here, the Council Tool Boys Axe, the first impressions video, I said that because the design was basically the same as the Camp Axe, that I had a feeling that this was going to fly very similarly, if not the same, as the Camp Axe was going to. And it did. However, there was one thing that I missed that's on me that I should have seen from the get-go. And I didn't realize it until the very first throw I made with this axe. And it hit me like a lightning bolt. And I said, I don't know how I didn't realize that in the first video. And what I'm talking about is that the 20-inch camp axe that Council Tool makes, that's designed the same as this one, has I think it's an 18 or a 20-inch handle. I can't remember. It's somewhere in there. The reason why that axe flew pretty well and did very well for single rotations, even though it had a really big heavy pole, was because the handle was really shorter than this one here. So the weight is a little bit farther down towards your hand, which is manageable for a single rotation, okay? I didn't consider it, but when I threw this for the very first time, I realized, oh crap, this has a 28-inch handle on it. So now that we've made this handle even longer with the same design, even though I said that this would probably do almost the same as the Camp Axe would, after throwing it I realized it's not even close. The extra length on this handle made this axe not manageable at all. You can forget about going back for distance with it. It's way too crazy. The weight feels like this in your hand, okay? Not only that, but even for single rotations, it wasn't great throwing. You can do it, and I did it. I did distance throwing, guys, and I did single rotations, but I'll be honest with you and tell you, I was struggling pretty hardcore with this axe. I had to go back to basic felling axe throws just to make a video on this. I'll be honest with you guys and tell you that after about 2 or 3 throws with this, even at a single rotation, I was ready to put this axe down and say, I'm not making this video. However, I powered through it because you guys deserve a final video. You guys deserve my overall impressions of this axe, and also you deserve to hear what I'm about to say now in regards to this axe and what it's designed for. You guys know what my experience is and what I like in throwing axes. I put axes into 3 different tiers, okay? You have your dedicated work axes, you have your dedicated throwing axes, then you have your dedicated work axes that can be utilized as throwing axes, or dedicated throwing axes that can be utilized for work axes, okay? And that's how I label or tier axes into those 3 groups, okay? This axe here is a work axe and only a work axe, okay? I will say this, before we continue, I will say this. Number 1, Council Tool did not design this to be thrown, and it shows, but that's okay. Number 2, my son used this, picked it up, used it. He loves it. He's 14 years old. He loves this axe. He loves the weight of it. He loves the length of the handle. He said that he really wants one of these axes. I chopped with it. It did very well. And I did a little bit of splitting work with some smaller logs. But all in all, it's a really good chopping axe with the ability to split. Now, keeping that in mind, I decided to make 2 videos. I made a video last night because I filmed the throwing part yesterday afternoon. Made a video last night, and then I decided to make another one because I went back and really thought about how I wanted to present this axe to you guys. This axe was not designed for throwing. We know that. I know that. Council Tool knows that, okay? And it's not okay for me to get on here and bash this axe and say, oh man, this thing sucked flying, because it's not designed for that, okay? They designed this for chopping, to be able to do a little bit of splitting work, and that's what it's good for. Going through in the future, going through axes and going in the future with this channel, and in the past when I've done axes on my own, I've run into this before. And I'm not going to knock the axe, and I'm not going to knock the company because it doesn't fly well. It's not designed for that, guys, okay? It's just not. So for me to say that this thing is a horrible flyer and it's a bad axe, that's disingenuous, because this thing right here wasn't designed to be thrown. Now, I will say that there are a lot of work axes out there that make really great throwing axes, and I'm going to tell you guys that. If an axe is dedicated as a throwing axe and it doesn't throw well, then that's a different story. Then I'm going to come back and say this axe isn't really all that great for throwing, and I'm going to tell you why it's not good. But to take an axe that is designed for chopping and splitting and to hate on it hardcore and say it's not good for throwing when it wasn't designed for that, it feels wrong to me. So going forward, if I get work axes or anything like that, and I think I've done a pretty good job, I think the only thing I've really called out was major flaws. I never said that an axe was bad because it didn't fly well if it wasn't labeled a throwing axe. I brought out things that were wrong with it. The bit was messed up. The forging's messed up. The hafting's wrong. There's cracks in the handle. Things like that. But I'm never going to take an axe and say it's a bad flyer and a bad axe if it's designed for chopping and it's not a good thrower. I'm just not going to do that. This thing just didn't fly well, guys, and that's okay. It's okay. It doesn't mean it's a bad axe. It's a really good chopper. But it's just not a good throwing axe. I didn't have a good time throwing it at all. It was very frustrating. It really was, because I was throwing something I didn't want to throw. The edge on it held very well, and I beat this thing up really hardcore, and the head is still hafted on the handle. It didn't come loose or anything. However, you can probably tell in the video that on the very first throw, I had nothing on the handle. It was this nice finish that I put on there. And then the rest of the throws in the video had tape on it. And the reason why is because of this. Before we get into why this handle did this, I want to cover something else really quick too. Somebody asked me in a previous video when I made the comment that hatchets sometimes doesn't matter about grain orientation on the knob. And they said, why is that? I want to cover that now. The reason why it doesn't matter sometimes, okay? You could say all the time, sometimes, whatever. But I'm going to give you guys a brief demonstration so you guys can understand what I'm trying to say. Say you have 2 sticks that are this circumference here. If you were to take a stick and try to break it, and it's this length right here, you're going to have a hard time trying to break this because it's short. But if you take the same thickness stick and now make it longer, it's easier to break, okay? And that's kind of the same, it's not exactly the same, but it gives you guys an idea of what I'm talking about. So that's kind of what my idea is when it comes to hatchet handles and felling axe handles. That's why you can get away with throwing hatchets and throwing axes that are like 20 inches and 17 to 20 inch handles. You can get away with throwing those a little bit harder and not having as many handles break than you can with a felling axe. Felling axe handles break really easy, guys. They really do. If you can just throw it a couple times and miss, and it'll break the handle. You have all this weight up top and a long handle, and when this thing's hitting, you got vibration going down the handle. Any imperfection in the handle will show really quick with a felling axe handle. And I'm going to roll a little bit of footage in here. Now, when I was refinishing, and I'm glad I took these videos, when I was refinishing this handle, I noticed down at the knob, I had like a recess in the wood. Now, I've gotten handles like that before, where, the wood it's got little, divots in it and little recesses in it in the handle. And when I go to sand it, sometimes I'll sand those out to make it smooth, and sometimes I'll leave them, still in there. This one here I noticed had one down at the knob. It was about 4 inches long. I stuck my fingernail in it, and I didn't really think it was a crack, but I wasn't 100% sure. And so I kind of went through and looked, and I stuck my fingernail in there, and I didn't feel a crack there. So I went ahead and proceeded with sanding the handle down and putting a quick finish on it, guys. That finish on that handle the finish that I put on this handle was really fast. Didn't take a lot of time, and it actually is a good look. Danish oil over top of a slight burning to bring out the grain. I didn't char it. I just kind of burned it a little bit to bring out the grain. Very first throw, guys, with this axe, the handle broke. Very first throw. Clean throw, hit the target, it broke in half. Okay? It didn't come completely off the handle or off the head, but it split right in half. Now, after the video was over, now, of course, I wrapped the handle up with tape. You can do that, guys. I've wrapped axe handles with tape before to get me through a throwing session. Do it again. Do it at your own discretion, but it's worked for me. If I happen to break a handle and I want to finish filming, I'll wrap it up with tape and continue filming, and it usually gets me through at least the film that I'm trying to create there. The way it split, the way it did, it didn't seem right to me. So I went back and looked at some of the video that I had shot prior to doing this handle. And if you guys look, I did 2 videos. I did one where the handle is natural with nothing done to it. And then I did another video of the handle after it was completed. Oddly enough, if you take the axe and you face the bit down towards the ground, I'm going to reference the right and left side that way. In the first video that the handle's natural, you'll see that line on the right side. It's sticking up. You'll see the line I'm talking about, and I'll show you guys again in the video the line that I'm talking about. It was present on the right side, but it wasn't as bad. Now, when you go to the finished video, the finished handled video, you'll really see it on the left side. They're almost in the same spot. Oddly enough, guys, it split right where that was. Right here on the knob, it split right where that recess was. So what I'm thinking, I can't be 100% certain that it was a crack, okay? Because I tried to verify it, but I couldn't tell it was a crack or not. It was weak there. And I think that there was probably, this handle was a little compromised when I got it. And I think that there was something going on in that area right there, whether it was a crack or it was such a deep recess that it was just weak. I've had handles do that before. So I will tell you guys this. If you get axe handles or you have axe handles and they have those deep recesses in the handles, watch them. If your handle breaks, try to make a mental note of where those recesses are if you sand them out. Or if you leave them in, go back and look and see if the crack runs the length of that recess. Because I think what's going on is those recesses are actually causing the handle to be a little bit fragile. All in all, guys, it's a really good axe for chopping. That's what it was designed to do. We tried throwing it. It didn't work out. That's okay. I've run across that in the past and will run across that in the future. I'll get axes that aren't designed for throwing and I'll throw them and say, hey guys, this isn't designed very well for axe throwing. However, it looks like it's going to be good for this, or I used it for chopping and it's good for that. That's how it is, guys. Now, going forward, I will tell you this. Am I going to judge an axe based on what it looks like in a picture? No, I'm not. I have to hold axes in my hands to be able to get a good idea of what it's going to do. Now, if I see another axe that's designed similarly to this one, am I going to buy it still? Yes, because I don't know exactly how it feels in my hand. I can make an assumption and I can judge a book by its cover, but I don't actually know until I get it in my hand. I was wrong about axes before by just looking at the pictures online, then I get them in my hand, like the Kings County Tool Tomahawk Hatchet. I didn't think that thing was going to fly well at all, but I thought it was cool looking and I thought it would make good content. Got it in my hand, threw it. Love that friggin' tomahawk, guys. That thing flies great. So I will go in with a mental note in the future with certain axes that, okay, this may do this or this may do that, and I'll let you guys know ahead of time, but I don't actually know until I actually throw the axe and get a really good idea of what it's going to do and how it's going to perform until like I'm in the moment throwing it, and then I go, okay, my speculations were correct. It's fine exactly how I thought it was going to, or no, I'm wrong. Either way, guys, I want to bring you guys axes. If they make good throwing axes, great, I'm going to tell you that. If they don't, I'm going to tell you that too. I'm not going to hate on companies and axes that make and produce and design axes for certain tasks, and then I take it and use it for another task. It just doesn't seem right to me. There's going to be plenty of axes, and I've got plenty of axes inside, guys, that were designed for carpentry or designed for cutting or splitting or whatever, and I've taken them and thrown them, and they've been great multi-purpose tools. So that's what I'm trying to do here. This isn't just for your guys' benefit, it's for mine too. I'm interested to see what some of these axes do throwing, and I'm going to go outside the box, outside the square, outside the box of normal, and get axes like these and throw them and see how they perform. And some people might say, well, yeah, of course it's not going to fly correctly. Yeah, true, maybe. But I bet there's a bunch of axes that I've got and that I'll review that people would say the same thing about, and then I'll come back and say, man, this thing was a great throwing axe. Just don't know. But going forward, I want to keep that open to you guys. Sorry I missed the whole 28-inch handle. I should have caught that. That's on me. But going forward, I will make sure to give you guys a little bit more information. Pay attention to your axe handles, because stuff like this can happen real quick. Like I said, first throw, snapped in half, but I wrapped it up, pushed through the video, guys. I wasn't able to do a lot of dynamic throwing. I wish I could have, but this axe was just fighting me the whole way. And I had to go down to basics to get the video even done. I was pretty frustrated last night when I got done filming this video. I actually made a video in my truck driving to work. And I kind of sat back and thought about it last night at work, and then woke up this morning, and or woke up this afternoon, I should say, and decided that, you know, I really need to make a video based on how we're going to deal with work axes that are designed for one thing, and then I use it for another, how we're going to address things that work and don't work. So this was a good axe to start with when it comes to doing reviews and talking about axes in the future, that sometimes, guys, it's got nothing to do with the company, and it's got nothing to do with how they designed it. It's just not a good throwing axe, okay? And that's what this one is. Edge held very well, even though I cracked the handle. And guys, I don't know if you can see this now. I mean, I cracked it. I will say that I had the crack was about to here, and I taped it here and here. And then after I kept throwing it, then we started getting crackage. I don't even know if that's a word. I think it is. We started getting cracking all the way up into the eye now, up in here. But guys, this head is still on here. Tight, still works. You know, I could probably take it out and chop with it. I don't know if I'd do that with this handle, but what I'm saying is that the hafting was done really well. For a hydraulically pressed head, it did very well. So, yet again, another council tool axe that the head didn't come loose, even after beating the hell out of it. I beat the hell out of this axe, guys. I'm not going to lie, I did. I beat the hell out of this thing, and the head stayed true and stayed on. So, in any event, oh, and just so you guys know that little crack that we had up at the top. Remember how I told you when I put steel barrel wedges in, you get some cracking up at the top? You can see right here, guys, we had cracking up at the top. It didn't even move. It didn't even break, and it didn't even come off. So that's why I say I don't worry about cracking. Now, this was almost a blowout, and it definitely is almost a blowout, but it didn't even come loose, so we're good there. But, you know, what can you do? What can you do? You know, we're going to test all kinds of axes here, and if they don't work, I'll tell you guys they don't work with the mindset that it's not designed for throwing. And that I'm not going to hate on a company based on an axe not performing as a throwing axe when it's designed for something else. I'm just not going to do that. But I will tell you guys if there's things wrong with the axe. I think this handle was compromised when it got to me. I do. I really do. And you can see that right there where that line was that I showed you in the video, it cracked right there and ran. It actually cracked here and then ran all the way up the handle. So it actually started here and then ran up. So I'm going to bring up one more thing for you guys to think about, and then I'm going to get out of here. Okay, so remember how I told you that the weight was all on the pole and that it was probably going to, you know, fly like the camp axe did. And it did, guys, but a little bit worse because of that 28-inch handle. But I'll also tell you this. The teardropped handle on this didn't help matters at all either. It actually, it wasn't fair, to be honest with you. This axe didn't have a chance going into this as a throwing axe. Teardrop handle made it worse. And the reason why the teardrop handle made it worse is because remember how I told you guys in the last video and the first video I made on this one that when you throw axes you don't want a super hard grip, and that how I had to grip this hard to get my hand around that teardrop shaped handle. That made the weight in the back of the pole even worse because I had to grip this pretty hard because I didn't want space in my hand. If I got space, then I get rotation like this when I throw it. So either way, if I had gripped this lightly, that teardrop handle would have caused this axe to rotate like this. And if I put a death grip on it to get the grip that I wanted and through it, I would have gotten rotation too. So this thing was just, it didn't have a chance going in, guys. It really didn't. And I realized that literally after the first throw and kind of felt bad. But, you know, that's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing here, right? We're going to take axes and see, you know, all kinds of different axes and see how well they fly and see how well they hold up. You know, and that's what this channel's about. So, but hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you found it informative. If you could, write in the comment section, tell me what you guys think, what makes a throwing axe. And, you know, tell me what you think about my assessment of this. If you think I'm spot on with, you know, not judging them and not judging the axe, if it's designed for certain, you know, work-related functions, I think that's pretty spot on. But tell me what you guys think. But until next time, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your support. Thanks for watching the videos. And I hope that this brought you something to think about when you go to buy your next axe. And maybe some of the tips that I shared will help you in working on an axe handle for too long before it cracks. Watch out for those recesses and see if there are weak points in your handles. But until next time, guys, see ya.